Life of George Washington. August 4, 1753 George Washington becomes a master mason. May 28, 1754 Battle of Jumonville Glen, forces led by George Washington kill French-Canadian officer Joseph Calland de Jumonville. July 3, 1754 George Washington surrenders to French, Fort Necessity, 7 Years' War. July 4, 1754 George Washington gives Fort Necessity to France. July 24, 1758 George Washington elected to Virginia House of Burgesses representing Frederick County. May 10, 1775 Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia names George Washington Supreme Commander. June 15, 1775 George Washington appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, the day after Congress establishes the force. July 22, 1775 George Washington takes command of the Continental Army. January 1, 1776 General George Washington hoists Continental Union flag. March 25, 1776 Continental Congress authorized a medal for George Washington. April 3, 1776 George Washington receives honorary LL.D. degree from Harvard College. September 10, 1776 George Washington asks for a spy volunteer, Nathan Hale volunteers. October 28, 1776 Battle of White Plains, George Washington retreats to New Jersey. December 8, 1776 George Washington's retreating army crosses Delaware River from NJ. December 25, 1776 George Washington crosses Delaware, surprises and defeats 1,400 Hessians. December 26, 1776 George Washington defeats Hessians at Battle of Trenton in American Revolutionary War. January 3, 1777 General George Washington's Revolutionary Army defeats British forces at Battle of Princeton, New Jersey. September 11, 1777 Battle of Brandywine, Pennsylvania, Americans lose to the British. Polish soldier Casimir Pulaski saves life of George Washington. September 15, 1777 George Washington on authorization of Congress appoints Casimir Pulaski Brigadier General in Continental Army Cavalry. October 4, 1777 Battle of Germantown, General George Washington's troops attack and are defeated by the British at Germantown, Pennsylvania. January 4, 1780 Snowstorm hits George Washington's army at Morristown, New Jersey. August 20, 1781 George Washington begins to move his troops south to fight Cornwallis. October 6, 1781 Americans under George Washington and the French under Comte de Rochambeau begin the siege of Cornwallis at Yorktown, last battle of American Revolutionary War. October 19, 1781 British forces under General Charles Cornwallis sign terms of surrender to George Washington and Comte de Rochambeau at Yorktown at 2 p.m., U.S. Revolutionary War ends. August 2, 1782 George Washington creates honorary badge of distinction. August 7, 1782 George Washington creates the Purple Heart Medal, original name Badge of Military Merit, as Commander of the Continental Army. March 15, 1783 In an emotional speech in Newburgh, New York, George Washington asks his officers not to support the Newburgh Conspiracy. The plea is successful and the threatened coup d'état never takes place. November 2, 1783 General George Washington, later first U.S. President, bids farewell to his army after the American Revolutionary War. December 23, 1783 U.S. General George Washington resigns his military commission as Commander-in-Chief of the Army to Congress. May 25, 1787 Constitutional Convention opens at Philadelphia, George Washington presiding. February 4, 1789 First U.S. Electoral College chooses George Washington as President and John Adams as Vice President. April 4, 1789 First U.S. Congress begins regular sessions during George Washington's presidency at Federal Hall, NYC, ending 1791. April 16, 1789 George Washington heads for first presidential inauguration. April 23, 1789 President-elect George Washington moves into Franklin House, New York. April 30, 1789 George Washington is inaugurated as the first President of the United States of America. May 7, 1789 First U.S. Presidential Inaugural Ball, for George Washington in NYC. October 2, 1789 George Washington transmits the proposed constitutional amendments, the United States Bill of Rights, to the states for ratification. October 15, 1789 First Presidential Tour George Washington in New England. January 8, 1790 First U.S. President George Washington delivers First State of the Union Address. April 5, 1792 George Washington casts first presidential veto. December 5, 1792 George Washington re-elected as U.S. President. February 25, 1793 First U.S. Cabinet meeting, held at George Washington's home. September 18, 1793 U.S. President George Washington lays the cornerstone of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. September 19, 1796 George Washington's farewell address as President. December 18, 1799 George Washington's body interred at Mount Vernon. December 26, 1799 George Washington is eulogized by Colonel Henry Lee as first in war, first in peace and first in hearts of his countrymen.